Hello and welcome back to the channel. I am opening up the series where I'm talking about toxic people, toxic environments, and toxicity that exists even within your own self. It's very important that you get rid of this toxicity. So in 2021, you need a mental and a spiritual detox. That's what we're going to be trying to do here. And in order to effectively do that, we've got to reroute, redirect, remove some things that we've allowed to stay for far too long. And so we're opening up the series with a title that I hope got your attention right away. The reason why I'm starting off so heavy in this particular realm is because I want you to know and I want you to understand that there are so many layers to the toxicity that exists in our environments, in our minds, in our thoughts, and just in the world in general. You got to be able to cut through all of those layers in order to free yourself from this, because it is poisoning you on a natural and a spiritual level. So the title is Better Have My Money. And I'm going to show you exactly where I'm going with this, okay? And for those of you who think right away that this is going to be something that's going to be attacking men, please don't watch this, because you're missing the whole point. We have to understand and make sense of why our communities are the way that they are, okay? This is not a blame game, because on the other side of that better have my money is a woman, or should I say women, who will plop that music in their CD and they will bounce their behinds to it. They are listening to it because they are entertained by it. Okay? So this has nothing to do with finger pointing. If you're going to be petty, please move on, because it is time to heal. It is time to get rid of this stuff. It's time to detox on a natural and a spiritual level, because this stuff is destroying our people and their minds. It is destroying our communities. It is destroying your very lives. So let's pay attention and put aside the pettiness, and don't put your dukes up. You know, some people come ready to listen and put their dukes up so they can just, tell you why everything you're saying doesn't need to be said, when the proof is in the pudding as we look around our communities, that somebody needs to be saying something. When you see a rise of immorality and a decline in righteousness, we ain't saying enough. Better have my money. Now, it's sad and unfortunate that that's actually a saying. That's a thing, y'all. It's a song, and it was actually a line that was in the film, and you all might remember this. I'm gonna get you, sucker. Remember Antonio Fargas? He's the one who played Fly Guy, okay? And there was a statement he made in the film that was just, it was awful. Come on, let's just call it what it is. It was awful. Now, I'm going to quote to you what Fly Guy said in this film, and then I'm going to give you some of the responses to this. People think it's cool. They think it's all right. But it's very, very toxic. It is not all right. It's toxic. So Fly Guy says this. He says, my bee better have my money through the rain, the sleet, or the snow. My whore better have my money, not half, not some, but all my cash. Because if she don't, I'm going to put my foot dead in her ass. So let me tell you the problem with this. In the audience, as he was quoting that in the film, if you all remember, there were people clapping And they said, this man's a poet. You know, they were clapping and just cheering him on. And they thought that that was entertainment and poetry. And some of you will still argue that it is. Now, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker came out a long time ago in 1988. And so this tells you how far back this thing goes, even beyond that. It goes back farther. We have accepted this kind of stuff into our communities. You thought it was funny. You cheered it on. And in the film, the men in the audience clapping, the women in the audience clapping, talking about this man's a poet. Like he said something profound. They portray us in movies like this because they have studied us. They see what we allow. They see what we accept. They see what we like as a people. And in order to help shape it and further engraft it into your minds, they put it in the form of entertainment in a movie. And so you sit back, you sit up and you listen to this stuff and you watch this stuff. And these people are making money at your expense. But you don't realize that there is a subtle sorcery that is taking place. That thought that was put out in this film, I'm Gonna Get You Sucker, back in 1988, that thought was engrafted into so many minds to where there is no respect amongst black men and black women today. We're looking at all of these years later, 32 years later, and we have spiraled downward and out of control because we have allowed toxic movie industries to implant these filthy thoughts, these unrealistic thoughts, these unrighteous thoughts. Well, I can't say unrealistic because, like I said, they study us. Unrealistic would have to go back a little bit further when we didn't allow this kind of stuff. So I guess in a sense it is unrealistic because there was a time where this kind of stuff was frowned on. It wasn't celebrated the way it is. It wasn't propped up as the norm in the so-called black community. But what we have done is we have said, okay, in the name of entertainment, we're going to allow it. We're going to accept it. We're going to cheer it on. And so the younger generations, they don't know the difference. In their minds, they're like, oh, this is the way it's supposed to be, I guess. This is how men treat women, I guess. And so it goes on and on and on. It gets worse and worse to the point where you almost can't even speak against these things because there's so many people who embrace it, so many toxic people that embrace this type of behavior that in their minds, they really do see you as the one who is the problem. Mind your own business. It's just entertainment. We're just having fun. It was just a movie. What's the big deal? And so what has happened over the decades is these type of toxic people will sit up around you, family, friends, co-workers, people in the community who think and act just like this, and many other toxic ways as well. Think and act just like this, talk like this. And for some, it's become so cool that it's normal. And how dare you say something against it? How dare you say something against it? Even the women don't mind being called the B word. They themselves will make music that's actually promoting how they are using their behinds to make money. And so it has worked. When this guy said my B better have my money through the rain, the sleet, and the snow, not have, not some, but all my cash. Because if she don't, when he said that, that thought lasted. It was implanted in the minds of many, and some grew with that. Even the women, they said, oh, so all I have to do is do this? and I'll get some money. And so, of course, we already know that this is a very, very ancient occupation. We know this. But for the most part, women were doing their own thing. They didn't need a fly guy. They were just out there doing it for themselves. But the middleman or the fly guy decide to slither in and say, look, you're going to make that money for me. I'll get you the customers and I'll pay you whatever I want to pay you. But you better have my money. And we, as the so-called black community, sat back, not just with this statement and the song, because there's a song that goes after this title as well. But we sat back and we watched that stuff just filter right into our communities. Your kids listening to it. You go to people's houses, they listening to it. Nobody is talking about it like it's a problem, like it's a bad thing. And if they are, just so few, only a few people, not enough to make a difference. We get out here, we riot, and we march and we protest about things. But we don't protest about this stuff because we don't see the damage that is being done. We have no idea the amount of damage that is actually done from this type of foolish nonsense. And so people are asking the question, how come black men don't respect black women? Well, let me tell you why. Stuff like this. Because we sat back and allowed this. And many had that attitude of, oh, I'm just going to mind my own business. That ain't got nothing to do with me. Yes, it does. It has everything to do with you. And this is why our communities are on a sharp decline, naturally and spiritually. Everything goes now. And you, when you speak out against it, when you show your disapproval, you're the problem. Not those who are doing this mess, but you. How dare you come against what we want to do, because we are doing as thou wilt. That is the whole of the law of Satan. Do what thou wilt. Do what you want to do. Even the song, It's Your Thing, do what you want to do. I can't tell you who to sock it to. You have people out here they think they're saying something righteous when they say, well, it ain't my place to judge anything, when the scripture says different. The scripture says that we are to judge nations, that we're going to be judging nations. Now, these are not issues of judgment. These are issues of what is right and what is wrong. And just because you speak out against these things doesn't mean that you think you're better than someone. That has absolutely nothing to do with it. That is totally against scripture for us to think that we're supposed to say, well, I got to get my own self together. I can't worry about anyone else. So when children grow up and they're doing drugs or smoking or getting high all the time and out here doing this, that, and the other. So what position are we supposed to take? Because you may have made some mistakes in your past. Are you supposed to say, I'm not in a position to judge, so I just stay out of it? This is why our communities go from bad to worse, is because we sit back and we watch this stuff happen and we misinterpret what scripture means. We are supposed to cry aloud and spare not and lift up our voices like trumpets in Zion and show our people their transgressions. We are supposed to do this. If we're not, then how can the people hear except someone is preaching the word? How? Again, this has absolutely nothing to do with thinking that you're better or that you're perfect. But if we don't tell our young people that this stuff is wrong because we don't want them to feel like we're judging them, they're going to keep on saying my B better have my money. Because you are too silent on the issue. You think that you shouldn't say nothing. So the next generation is going to go a step further. And they have. Again, this is what? This film came out 32 years ago. And so you know that idea was out a long time before the film. So even before the film, people had that attitude of my B better have my money. And we as the so-called weak black community just let this stuff come right in. And we sit back and complain and wonder why and say, oh, how did this happen? Where did we go wrong? Your silence is where you went wrong. Your complacency is where you went wrong. Your complicity is where you went wrong. I don't claim to be perfect in any way, but I will not be silent on issues that I know are destroying our people. Toxic music, toxic people, toxic environments. We too scared to say anything about it because we don't want to hurt folks' feelings. You don't want to tell that young girl that she needs to stop being so promiscuous because you don't want her to be mad at you. You don't want to tell that young man that he needs to stop being so promiscuous because you say, he's a young man, they're going to be that way. So when you give them permission to do one bad thing, the scripture says that each generation is going to wax worse and worse. So this is what we see happening because we are too cowardly to stand up for the truth. We come up with excuses that sound just about right, but the Most High says, not so. And then you have the women who embrace being called this. Glad to be called this. And they call themselves, they say, I'm a bad bee. They embrace it. They love it. If we don't eliminate this toxicity in our environment and in our lives, our young people and our people in general are going to continue to be destroyed for the lack of knowledge. Because we continue to allow this type of foolishness, this type of toxicity to just reign supreme in our communities. When I say this type, there's so much more. So much more. As I cover the topics of toxicity, I will branch off into all of the different areas in which toxicity is just ruling and destroying our people and our next generations. If you look at this generation, look at the music and the attitudes and everything that is happening, and you fast forward 20, 30, 40 years, where many of us will have crossed over to the next life or whatever, what is going to be left of us as a people? Think about that for a moment. If we let this current generation keep getting worse and worse because we too cowardly to open up our mouths and say something, what kind of life, what kind of existence are your children and grandchildren going to have? I'm going to continue on in this series. I think from here I'm going to go to the topic of women who say, I don't need a man for nothing. Stay tuned for that. That's going to be the second episode of this Toxic People series. Okay? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel. Okay, share and like this video. Also, don't forget to put some topics in the comment section that you think we should cover in this series. Okay? With that, I am out. Be sure to ring the bell to be notified of new uploads on this channel, and also comment, share, like, and subscribe.